So in the last episode, we were able to display more details about a blog post. So we showed the thumbnail, the content here, and the rich text content together with the embedded assets such as images and also code blocks. And in this episode, I want us to go ahead and deploy this application to Vercel, and then we will cover a concept called incremental static regeneration, which allows Next.js to rebuild the page when we have already deployed the site. So for now, we'll not be able to update the changes live until we redeploy the application. So for you to see what problem we are having, we'll have to deploy the site first, and then we'll cover incremental static regeneration to solve the issue that we'll be having. So let's deploy the application and see what issues that we are having. So I'll go ahead and first of all create a GitHub repository for this, and I'll call it a next contentful blog. So NCB, just a short form. And then I'll go ahead and make this to be a private repo and create the repo. And the first thing that I need to do is to commit my changes, and then I'll add the main branch, add the remote, and then push the changes. So I'll come to VS Code, open the terminal, and I'll do everything right here. So I'll go ahead and git add all files, and then I'll git commit -m, and I'll say initial commit, and I'll hit enter, and then I will now add the remote. So I'll come to the browser and I'll create the main branch first. So I'll git branch -m main, and then I'll add the remote. So I'll copy this one and I'll paste it there, and then we will push the changes. So I'll copy that one and paste it there. So I'll hit enter. So I'll wait for this to process, and there we go. So I'll come back and refresh, and now we have our files here. Pretty nice. Now the next thing that you might want to do is to go to Vercel, and if I go to home here, you will see I have 2 projects and I can be able to add a new project. So when creating Vercel, you can connect to GitHub and so on, and you can see I have already connected to GitHub right here. So I'll go ahead and import a project right here from GitHub. Okay, so I'll go ahead and import NCB, and then now down here I'll need to enter the environment variables. So I'll go back to the code and I'll go to actually I'll minimize everything here, and also let me minimize this one like this. Go to .env. I'll select the name of this environment variable. I'll copy that and I'll enter the name there, then the value. So I'll copy that and enter the name here. Then I'll go ahead and add, and then we have added one down here, so I need to add the other one. So I will copy this one, access token, and then I'll add it there, and then I'll come right here, I'll copy that and I'll add it there, and then I'll add. Now we have added, and I'll go ahead and deploy. So deployment queued, it's building. So the project has been deployed, and I can go ahead and visit it. So I can click on this one, and now you'll see that we have this project, and now it's live. Pretty awesome. And when I click on this one, I can be able to load everything, and everything is loading very fast. Now all this is static. We are not like making a request to fetch the data and so on. All the pages were pre-built during deployment. So now the issue that we have is that when we go to Contentful and update this data, we won't see the changes unless we like redeploy this particular application. So let's do that and see it in action. So I'll go ahead and go to Contentful and sign in. So once I'm here, I'll go ahead and click Next.js, and right here I'll say Next.js tutorial for beginners, and then let me change the content down here. This is the content of Next.js tutorial for beginners. So I'll just remove for beginners so that it's just tutorial. Okay, so we switch them up, just a little change to show you the effect that we have. So I'll go ahead and publish. Now, since we have made the changes, if we come to our live site, which is on Vercel right here, and we hit refresh, you'll see that Next.js tutorial for beginners doesn't appear here. And when we click on it, this one does not change as well. But on our localhost, since when we refresh, it will like rebuild the application, we will see the changes. So this is on localhost. So if I refresh this one, you'll see that we'll have Next.js tutorial for beginners since it rebuilt the application. Okay, and when we click on this one is updated. So for beginners is like removed. So the problem that we have is that when we deploy our application, unless we like redeploy this application again, we won't be able to see our changes, and that is kind of a bad experience. So Next.js tries to solve this with a concept called incremental static regeneration. And what incremental static regeneration does is that it will be able to rebuild the page once we visit it for like the first time or after a period of time, and then future visitors will be able to see the already rebuilt page. Okay, and then another issue that is there is that for example, when we add a new entry, in this case we just updated, so let's try to add a new entry. So I'll go ahead and add a blog. So this is a new entry. If I go ahead and publish new entry, we won't be seeing this either. Okay, so if we try to refresh, nothing. Okay, only the old one until you redeploy the application. But on localhost, if you refresh this page, yeah, you'll see that it's being rebuilt and therefore it's there. So let's implement the incremental static regeneration, and it's actually easy to implement this one. So if you come down here, you'll see that what we need to do is to add a revalidate. This we are adding it to get static props. Okay, we add the revalidate prop to get static props, and now down here you'll see after our props here we will be able to add revalidate, and we give it a time period. So Next.js will attempt to regenerate the page when a request comes in, at most once every 10 seconds. And then another thing that we will do, we will set right here fallback to blocking. You can either set this to blocking or true, and when you set it to true, you'll need to do some other configuration, because fallback to true means that you have to show a fallback page where you can maybe show a loader or something. So I'll just copy revalidate right here, and then I'll go to the code, go to slug, and then now down here where we were fetching the data, right here after props we will add revalidate. And since we want to see these changes happen very fast, I'll set this one to 1 second for the tutorial purpose. Okay, but if the data doesn't change too much, you can even set it to that seconds. And then now down here I'll set fallback to blocking. So I'll copy blocking, and I'll come where we have fallback and change from false to blocking. So this will give our server time to like generate the path, and then fetch the data here, and we will be able now to like see the page. So let's do these two changes and save, and then I'll go ahead and push these changes to GitHub. So I'll come here, I'll say git add all, and then I'll git commit -m, and I'll say incremental static regeneration, and then I'll git push. And now when I go to Vercel, right here, I'll go to dashboard, NCB here, and it's building, upcoming building right here just now. So it will automatically like trigger that rebuild. I'll go to deployments here to see what is happening. I think this has already like been built. So let's see if it's loading the page. I'll visit, and once I visit, now this is like the rebuild page. So you can see the new entry right here. So find a way to navigate to the already like built page. So you can go to the home right here, then you can go to your project, and then you can go to deployments and go with the one that has the current push and visit that particular link. Okay, so if you visit the previous one, you might not see the correct changes. So visit the current one, and once you do that, you'll be able to see the changes live. Now there we go, pretty nice. Now let's try to update this. So I'll go ahead and so I'll say new Next.js entry, and then test content for Next.js. So I'll go ahead and save, I'll publish, and then when we come to our Chaoo blog, now we refresh the first time, we won't see the changes. Now we have made the request. Next.js on the background will refetch the data and rebuild the page, so that when the next user visit this page, they'll be able to see the changes. So when I refresh again, we should be able to see the changes, and we don't. So right here, we didn't like include the delivery date for the list of our blog post. But when we click on this one, we made the changes only on the Strag, and that is why we can be able to see the changes right here. So this is working, but we didn't like remember to do a revalidate of our home page. So you also need to do the same on the home page here, where we were fetching the data as well. So since here we don't have the paths and stuff, we only need to include the revalidate. So I'll go ahead and fix that real quick. So I'll fix it and then push the changes, and then we can test it. So let me try to do this a bit fast. So after the props here in index.js, add revalidate, and I'll set it to 1. Also make sure that you have added it after the curly brackets here, and then push the changes to GitHub so that Vercel can redeploy the application. So I'll go ahead and do that. So I have pushed the changes. Now when I go to Vercel right here, go to I want to go to deployment. I'll go back to the home, go to my app here, and then go to deployments. You'll see that this is now ready, and I called it ISR3. So I previously like made this ISR2 and made a mess, so I had to like repeat the process. So this is like the correct one that I made the change for. And now when you visit this page and then visit the page, so I'll close this one so that we have this new one, and you'll see this is the current data that we have. Next, new Next.js and contentful entry. Now if we go ahead and update that, so I had added this contentful as a trial. So I don't know what I should change. I should change this and to maybe this one, just a simple change, and then I'll do the same at the content. So I'll change it to the symbol, and I'll go ahead and publish the changes. Okay, so the changes are published. Now when I go to the blog, you'll notice that this is and here, and when I refresh the page, you will not see the change initially, because what will happen is that we have made request to rebuild the page, and then after it has rebuilt the pages using the new data, then new visitors will be able to see the new changes. So when I refresh this again, we should now be able to see the new changes. So I will refresh again, and there we go. Now we have end there, and now when we visit this, you will see that we have the end here. Pretty cool. And that is incremental static regeneration in action. Very easy to implement. And if you add a new data or new entry, let's try to do that. So I'll go ahead and add right here pretty fast, and I'll say another one like DJ Khaled, and then I'll go to the summary. I'll say another one. I'll just include another one to all of them. Another one content, just to show you, okay, nothing serious here. And let's also add a thumbnail to spice it up. I'll add an existing one, introduction, publish. So I'll go ahead and go back to our blog right here. Now if we refresh the first time, we won't see it. The second time we will see it. Okay, so I'll go ahead and refresh. The first time we don't see it, the second time we should see it. So there we go, another one. And once we visit, we get it right here. And why we are getting these is because we were able to also add a fallback here to blocking, because it will wait for the page to rebuild the paths and also fetch the data. If this was false, we would see a 404 page because the path will not be there. So that is incremental static regeneration in action. And amazingly, we have come to the end of this course. We have covered the main concepts that exist in Next.js. So if I come to a Next.js documentation right here, we check at the side here, getting started, we will see at basic features, we have covered most of these concepts. Get server-side props, get static paths, get static props, incremental static regeneration, and then we have client-side. So client-side we didn't do because this is the normal way you fetch data in React, but you can go through it and see what Next.js provides. We saw how we can style our CSS, built-in CSS support. We built a layout. We did image optimization. We didn't cover fonts, but that is something you can go through. Fast refresh, this is something that we don't need to worry about. ESLint, we don't need to worry about. If you are using TypeScript, you can go through this one. We covered environment variables, and you can see all these basic features that are here. We have covered like 99% of them, which is really cool. We also covered routing, the pages, dynamic routes, and we didn't cover API routes. This is like building API routes in Next.js. You can cover it, and in future I might be coming a tutorial on the same. And then when you go through this, some of these are just straightforward deploying, going to production. And another thing that you might want to cover is authentication in Next.js. So for now, I won't cover this one, but if this course gets good viewership, I'll cover it also in future. So what I'm promising in future is authentication and API routes. I'm promising that in future, and maybe TypeScript, okay? But most of the other stuff, we have already covered them, the concepts that exist in Next.js. So this marks the end of this course, and I really hope you enjoyed. If you like the content, please remember to subscribe, turn on post notification for more awesome content just like this one. And I'll see you on the next course.